Raider Nation was hit with a bombshell. Christian Wilkins is no longer a part of the Las Vegas Raiders. That news came down hard and fast. And regardless of where you stand on the situation, one thing is for sure, the Silver and Black have a serious hole to fill on their defensive line. When a player like Wilkins leaves, it's not just about replacing talent. It's about replacing leadership, presence, and consistency in the trenches. And right now, with the dust still settling, the Raiders have to figure out how to respond. Not tomorrow, not next week, now before fans start throwing out names like Trey Hendrickson, Micah Parsons, or even talking wild trades. Let's pump the brakes a bit. The reality is, the first place this coaching staff is going to look is inside the building. That's where Pete Carroll and John Spytek will start. They're going to comb through the current depth chart, analyze film from last season, and evaluate who's ready, or at least who needs to be ready, to step up. And with 90 players on the roster, plus an extra spot thanks to the International Pathway program, there's a bit of flexibility. But let's not kid ourselves, this isn't about numbers. It's about production, it's about who's going to bring that fire on game day when the middle of the line needs someone to blow up a double team, or collapse a pocket on 3rd and long. And while we're being honest here, no one really knows what the Raiders' cap situation looks like in full after parting ways with Wilkins. There's a grievance being filed, there's still money possibly tied up in guarantees, and that leaves the front office working with a lot of uncertainty. But even with all that, the show must go on, and so the question becomes, who's next? Let's start with the guys already in-house, because like I said, that's where this journey begins. First name that comes to mind, Janualo. This is a young player who's already had to answer the call once. When Wilkins went down last season, it was Janualo who got thrown into the fire. And to his credit, he held his own. He's a big, physical presence who clearly isn't afraid of the moment. What the coaching staff wants to see now is growth. Does he come into camp stronger, sharper, more prepared? That's what's going to decide if he's part of the solution or just a rotational piece. Then you've got a couple of rookies in the mix, Tonka Hemingway and J.J. Pegas. These are the hybrid-style defensive tackles who came into the league with potential. But potential only gets you so far. Pegas is built like a truck, and Hemingway brings that versatility coaches love. The question is whether either one of them is ready to contribute meaningfully in year one. And let's be real, the Raiders need contributors, not just bodies. It's one thing to flash in the preseason. It's another to handle 1st and 2nd down in December with the playoffs on the line. Moving up the depth chart, Adam Butler has suddenly found himself as the top interior lineman on the roster. He signed a 3-year deal worth $16.5 million. But now the expectations go through the roof. Butler has always been seen as a solid DT2, the kind of guy who can support a star, eat up blocks, push the pocket a little, and make life easier for the edge rushers. But now, he's got to be more than that. He's got to lead. He's got to be disruptive. He's got to be the anchor. Then there's Leaky Foe too. This guy might just be the biggest body on the defensive line outside of a few exceptions. Signed after the draft, Fota brings that mass in the middle that can clog lanes and take on double teams. That's his job. He might not rack up sacks, but if he can consistently command attention, it opens the door for other playmakers, guys like Butler, like Max Crosby, like Malcolm Kuntz, to get free. And with how this Raiders defense is built, having that plug in the middle is critical. But let's not kid ourselves. The real focus, the real X factor in all of this is Tyree Wilson. The number 7 overall pick in the 2023 draft has been working both as an edge and an interior guy. And now with Wilkins gone, his importance just skyrocketed. He's been bulking up this offseason. Sources close to him say he's trying to put on 10 to 15 pounds to handle the increased workload inside. And through the early practices and training camp, reports have been glowing. He's looked fast, strong, and locked in. But potential, again, isn't enough. Tyree needs to become a force. He's got the size, the motor, and the upside to be a real difference maker. But now it's about consistency. Snap after snap, game after game, the Raiders are going to lean on him hard. And if he can rise to the occasion, it could change the entire trajectory of this defensive front. So with those names in the spotlight, how confident should fans feel about this group without Wilkins? Honestly, that depends on how you define confidence. If we're talking about the full defensive line, with Max Crosby still leading the charge off the edge, then there's a reason for optimism. You've still got one of the best pass rushers in the league in Crosby, and that's a massive piece to build around. Adam Butler, as mentioned, is a reliable veteran. Fotu can handle the dirty work. Januelo and Wilson have upside. There's a foundation, but if we narrow the lens to just the interior, just the defensive tackle spot, things get shakier. There's no true proven game wrecker in that room anymore. And while it's possible someone steps up, it's equally possible that no one does. That's why if we're scaling confidence from 1 to 10, a full defensive line grade might be a solid 7, but just looking at the tackle group, that's more like a 6. There's talent, sure, but too many unknowns, and that's exactly why the Raiders are exploring the trade market. Because sometimes the solution isn't on your roster. Sometimes you have to go out and make a move, even if it's not a blockbuster. And no, don't expect a miracle trade for a superstar. Names like Trey Hendrickson or Micah Parsons aren't just expensive. They're basically unrealistic given the financial situation and team dynamics. What the Raiders are more likely to do is target guys who fit the system. Guys who have connections to coaches, and guys who can be brought in at a manageable cost. One of those names, John Jenkins, the veteran defensive tackle, has a history with this coaching staff and has played well in a Raiders uniform before. He's currently with the Baltimore Ravens. But given his familiarity with Patrick Graham and Rob Leonard, and given that he likely wouldn't cost more than a late-round pick, Jenkins is a name to watch. Even better, he's open to the idea. While he's focused on his role in Baltimore, sources say he thought a return to Las Vegas was on the table this offseason and would welcome that opportunity. Another potential target? Andrew Billings. He played for the Raiders in 2022 and was with the Dolphins the year prior. There's already chemistry there with both players and coaches. And if the Bears are willing to deal, especially after adding Grady Jarrett, Billings could be an ideal short-term plug. The concern, of course, is health. He's missed chunks of multiple seasons. And while he was decent last year when on the field, availability has been a real issue still. If you can get him for a low cost and keep the price tag under control, he could help stabilize the group. And while fans might crave big names, the reality is, most of the guys who actually make sense in a trade are older veterans who can provide rotational support, not headline-stealing numbers. Derek Brown's not walking through that door. Neither is Jeffrey Simmons or Quinnen Williams. That's not the stage this team is at. But if they can add someone like Matt Ioannidis, or even look toward a reunion with someone like Quinton Jefferson, it starts to look more reasonable. Now, before we go down the full rabbit hole of trade speculation, let's not forget about free agency. There are still some names out there who can contribute, and the most likely signing, in my opinion, is Quinton Jefferson. This is a guy with long-standing ties to Pete Carroll, having played 5 seasons under him in Seattle. He was also with the Raiders back in 2021, and he's someone Max Crosby really respects. At 32 years old, he's not going to be an every-down star, but he doesn't need to be. He just needs to be solid, and he's shown he can be. What makes Jefferson even more of a candidate is that the Raiders just brought him in for a visit. That's not a coincidence. It usually means talks are serious. If I had to guess, I'd say there's a good chance he signs before the week is out, maybe even before the next practice. That's how much sense it makes. And he's not alone. There are others. Austin Johnson is one of them. He played under Patrick Graham with the Giants and had a career-high season under him in 2021. He's another big-bodied interior lineman who can take up space and bring experience to a relatively young group. He's not flashy, but he's dependable. Still, if the Raiders really wanted to make a splash, a real, bold, aggressive move, then Jadeveon Clowney is the name that lights the fuse. Clowney can play inside or out. He's had 15 sacks over the last 2 seasons and remains one of the more disruptive hybrid linemen in the league. And yes, he's also played under Pete Carroll back in 2019 when he had one of his best seasons with an 87.3 PFF grade. That familiarity with the system, combined with his ability to move around the line, makes him an intriguing option. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy, drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Las Vegas might be on the verge of witnessing one of the most electrifying transformations in NFL history, according to emerging whispers from insiders close to the situation. The Raiders could be assembling an attack of dreams, and the centerpiece might just be Tyreek Hill. That's right. The Cheetah himself is reportedly on the verge of signing a jaw-dropping multi-million-dollar deal with the Silver and Black. though nothing has been officially confirmed. Several sources suggest that the Raiders' front office has been quietly working behind the scenes to secure Hill's services, sending shockwaves through both the AFC West and the broader NFL landscape. The potential addition of the league's most explosive wide receiver would signal a massive shift in strategy for a franchise hungry to reclaim its former glory. What makes the move even more intriguing is the context. Tyreek Hill, already a Super Bowl champion and perennial Pro Bowler, could be eyeing a fresh chapter in Las Vegas, one that pairs his game-breaking speed with a revitalized Raiders offense. Pair him with a creative play caller and a competent quarterback, and you suddenly have a nightmare scenario for opposing defenses. Some league observers are skeptical, pointing to Hill's existing contract with the Dolphins and the complexities involved in such a high-profile acquisition. Yet, the rumor mill insists that talks have intensified, with figures nearing historic highs for a non-quarterback. Could this be another splashy Las Vegas gamble, or is it all smoke and mirrors for now? Fans will have to wait and watch as speculation continues to swirl. But one thing is certain: if Tyreek Hill does indeed don the Raiders' silver and black, the team might not just be dangerous, they could be downright unstoppable. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.